We all know we should be doing user research and testing, but so often we don't have the time or budget to do that, which is why I've created this course. My name's Boag, and I'm going to teach you how to overcome that fundamental problem with really lightweight, lean user research and testing that anybody can do. And I would encourage you to join me so that you can see just how easy testing can really be. First of all, what benefits does doing user research and testing have for you? Because I know a lot of the people that are watching this, user research and testing is not your primary role. You're probably a developer, right? And as a developer, you think, I know user research and testing is important, but do I really want to be doing this? Do I want to take this on top of everything else? Well, there are a lot of good reasons to do it. For a start, because of your knowledge and your expertise in the field of digital and in creating web apps and websites, you're actually very knowledgeable about what you do. But does your stakeholders, your clients, and your managers realize how knowledgeable you are, right? In my experience, no. In my experience, other stakeholders think they know better, don't they? So one of the huge benefits of doing a little bit of user research and a little bit of testing for you is you get to be proved right? You have some evidence to back up the expertise that you've already had. So that's one good reason to do it yourself, right? Is that if there is something you want to prove, if there's a point you're trying to make to stakeholders and clients, little bit of research, little bit of testing can get rid of endless hours of arguing or headbanging or getting frustrated and sweary, right? Might be just me that gets sweary, but there you go. The second reason that you want to pay attention to it is a client or a stakeholder comes with you with a bad idea. Let's just go with that. And you're sitting there going, oh, really? Really? Well, instead of getting into this argument with them where you're normally going to lose because normally that stakeholder or client is more senior than you and so therefore thinks automatically their idea is better. So instead of getting into an argument, just do a little bit of testing. Show them that their idea is bad. And that way you can avoid confrontation by just suggesting we test it. So that's another reason. And then finally, the final reason for you to do it is to avoid criticism later, right? Testing is a great way of covering your ass, right? It's a great way of saying, well, we tested it, we went and checked it. So all of these are brilliant reasons for you personally to do a little bit of research and testing, even when it's not primarily your job. But there are also organizational benefits. And we need to talk about these things in the right way. Because if we use the right words, it tends to go much better. So let's go back to your bank, right? Bank is a big established organization that's been around ages. So those kinds of organizations, they're all about maintaining the status quo, maintaining their position within the within the marketplace. Also, there's a lot of compliance that's going on there, a lot of rules and regulations. So what you do is talk about risk management, right? They're terrified of risk. Don't want to risk anything. Well, if we don't do our user research and testing, this could backfire. Accessibility, that's always a good one to go with. Oh, yeah, if we don't test it with people, it might be inaccessible. And then there would be a PR disaster and would get sued, right? Great way to talk with people like that. Another organizational benefit for maybe the more startup side of things, the smaller, hungrier organization, is market fit, right? So in those situations, they're wanting to know that they can outperform the competitors, that they can, be more progressive, more disruptive in the industry. But the only way you know that is to do a bit of user research and testing, right? Or the other thing that smaller organizations always want to know is they want to get in there quick. They want to establish their market position. So actually, user research and testing can reduce debate and the time spent on failed approaches and will get you to market faster than if you don't test, right? And that's a big claim that I'm making there, okay? I'm saying slowing down and doing user research and testing will get you to market faster than not doing it. And I will prove that later. But for now, I'll leave it hanging. Now, I'm going to, I highly recommend top task analysis if you can get to do it, but I'm going to make the presumption that maybe you aren't going to have the opportunity to do it that thoroughly. So what I'd like to do is introduce you to what I've called top task analysis Lite, right? Which is where I've gone through and I've kind of hacked it around a bit. Probably Jerry would freak out if he saw what I've done to his lovely technique. And try and make it a little bit faster to turn around. It's still not the fastest and easiest thing to do, but I think now we're in a position where the return on investment of putting that effort in terms of cutting dead debate and arguments and politics and all the rest of it, means that in many cases it is worthwhile doing. And obviously on smaller sites it's easier to do anyway because there's not as many tasks, there's not as many questions. So here are my steps and what I recommend you do on each step in order to establish your list of top tasks. Starts off the same, right? Start off by gathering a list of potential tasks, right? Everything that people might want to know or might want to do on your website or your app. And there's a whole load of places you can look, and we've kind of touched on these already in some of the earlier stuff where I was talking about looking at existing material. You can look at existing user research, testing, customer-facing staff, analytics, etc. Right? So you look at all these sources, and then what you do is you write a big-ass list of everything that you think someone might want to do on the website. But it's a particular type of survey we're going to create. Well, what we're going to do is we're going to use a tool called Poll Unit. Now, there are other tools available, but that happens to be the one that I use. And Poll Unit allows you to create a list of options that people can either vote on, right, vote up, or they can add their own additional options on it. So all we're doing is pre-populating it with some initial ideas, but people can always suggest their own, and then other people can come in and vote for those things. Does that make sense? Am I making sense there? What we're going to do is we're going to create a new survey on Poll Unit, and then we're going to populate that survey with some initial tasks. So you can see on the right-hand side of the screen there, this is one I created and is running at the moment. What information do you need from the Network Rail website? That's the question that we're asking. And then I pre-filled it with a load of ideas that ChatGPT came up with and my user research came up with, just to get people thinking. So sustainability information for the media, what it's like working for Network Rail, getting involved in community rail and various other things, right? So I just dumped a load of ideas in there. Doesn't need to be comprehensive, because remember, if someone finds something that isn't in the list, then they can add it themselves. Right. So then what we're going to do is we're going to ask users, we're going to send this out to users, and we're going to say, have a look through that list, right? If you find the thing that you want to know or the thing that you care about, click the heart and it'll vote for it. So you'll vote and that'll be your yes, I want that. If you find it's not there, you can click the big add idea button and put in your own idea, and then other people can vote on that, right? So it's basically like, you get those vote for a feature on apps sometimes where you can suggest a feature and then vote it up down. It's exactly the same. So you'd leave that running for a while, send it out to some users, or use a tool like Askable to recruit users to complete it if you need to. You send that out and you'll get back a load of results, right? Wonderful. So now we've got a load of results of people that have voted for and suggested various things. And our job then is very simple. We just got to clean up the results a bit because it'll be a bit messy, right? What you'll do is you'll have, for example, duplicates. There'll be somebody who has said, well, let's go back to the University of Florida example from earlier. Somebody might have put it in as healthcare, and somebody might have put healthcare packages or healthcare plans, and it's all healthcare basically. So you're going to kind of group those ones together, and then probably you're going to simplify the wording a little bit as well, because sometimes they put in long things like, I want to know about healthcare packages, where you just need it to sell healthcare, right? So it's doing a bit of a tidy up. Anyway, what you'll end up with is a list that looks something like this, right? So the top third of the list are going to be your top tasks. Notice how it's slowly tailing off and it goes down further into nothing. So there's most of your, the top third of your votes are going to be, really stacked towards a certain number of tasks at the top. And those are your top tasks. Now, that might be enough for you, right? If time is tight, money's tight, you might go, great, I know the top task, now let me create an information architecture around it, right? However, if you think there's going to be a lot of arguments about the information architecture, if you want to do something that's a little bit more user orientated, we can actually use those top tasks to define our top level navigation, right? And this is where it gets really, really quite powerful, and you end up with an information architecture that is rock solid. A, it'll work well for users, and B, it'll be really difficult for anybody to argue against. Not that I'm obsessed with shutting stakeholders up, but, sometimes it's needed. What about unfacilitated? Well, you got some options there. Is you have, they're really easy to set up. This is being set up with look back. You can go in and you can select your self-test option, really simple. You then basically go in, you write them a welcome message where you say some of those things that you would have said if you were welcoming people in person. Say, we're not testing you, we'd encourage you to speak out loud, any feedback is good feedback, you're not going to offend anybody, a little bit like that. I tend to work right in the welcome. And then you basically go through and write out the scenarios, right? That you want them to do, and you add the URL into the prototype. And it's as simple as that. And then you tend to write a final message. Thank you very much. You're amazing, blah, blah, blah. Once you've filled all those details in, and notice there as well on the left-hand side, you can say whether it's desktop, iOS, Android, and things like that, which is good for you. At the end of that, it just gives you a URL. You send the URL out to your users. They jump on the URL and they're talked through the whole process, and it records them while they're doing it. It transcribes them, and then you can sit and watch and pick out bits that you like and all the rest of it. As you can see, that's a lot less work. But it's also really good because you get this very unbiased, unfiltered, unprompted view. So if you're not as confident about doing usability testing, or you're a bit rubbish at it like I am, unfacilitated works better because you're less likely to bias it, right? Pros and cons, make your pick, probably based on the time that's available to you.